Well, we start off this morning taking a look at load shedding and its impact on the South African economy. And is this now the sign of things to come where we are going to see an economy that is going to be crashing? We've seen the GDP shrinking to 1.3%. And how much more can this economy sustain the negative impacts of load shedding? And we're going across now to the Chief Director responsible for national accounts at StatsSA. We are talking with Bokang Vumbukani Lepolesa. Bokang, good morning to you and welcome to the show.
Good morning. Thank you very much. And good morning to the listeners. And thank you for having me this morning.
Right. Bokang, let's just talk about these numbers. And these are scary numbers as a result of load shedding. And from time to time, we look at the economy, we look at growth, we look at the economy shrinking. But this 1.3% in the fourth quarter appears to be much worse than economists have actually expected.
Yes, indeed. That is so, because you will note that the expectations were that it would sink, yes, but maybe by about 0.4 thereabout. But you see the difference now between 0.4 and 1.3 is quite huge. Therefore, this has really come as a surprise. But if you look at what is happening now, honing in specifically on what you're talking about, load shedding as an issue, this has been a cross-cutting problem across all industries, because what we do as StatsSA is we've got our monthly surveys where we get inputs into how the business are doing and what's probably hindering the production and so on. But across the board, we have seen load shedding coming to the fore. But as StatsSA, we do not measure the impact explicitly, but what we rather do is to check the electricity, gas, and water sector. That is how we measure perhaps the load shedding element. But as you've noted, the sector has declined by about 1.9%, and this has been an ongoing trend, because in the previous quarter we were down in the same sector by about 2.7%. And looking at things pre-COVID, we are really worse off, because as we speak, we are minus 6.3% where we were in 2019. And you can agree with me that is really catastrophic if you think about it to businesses.
Well, clearly, from what you're saying, it's a major cause for concern. And if we thought that over the COVID-19 pandemic, we had hit the bottom of the barrel, load shedding appears to be worse than the pandemic from what these numbers are actually revealing.
That's very true. That is very true. As I have indicated, we are looking at about minus 6.3% from the 2019 figures. And as you can see, that's really huge. And because this is a long-term sort of view that we're taking, it is important that at least our colleagues in the policy space get to do something that addresses this.
Yes, in fact, I'm just looking at the table that's here on the article, and looking at this contraction and looking at just some of the numbers, as you mentioned, right across all sectors, whether we're looking at government services, whether we're looking at manufacturing, electricity, gas, water, mining, quarrying. And I see the worst, one of the worst hit is obviously agriculture. We're looking at forestry now. We know that South Africa has got a major problem at this point in time as far as food security is concerned, poverty, all of that. And this is a major concern, because this is hitting where it's at its hardest, people's bellies.
That's very true. And as you have rightly put it, there are major economic challenges in South Africa. We've got huge unemployment, especially with amongst the youth or young people. And therefore, if sectors that have got a potential to absorb even the lower skills or the lower skilled labor force are not able to create production, then that alone is a problem. Because remember, production and employment are positively related, and therefore we can expect that where there's increased production, there's a likelihood that in the long run employment will be increasing. So if we are seeing declines in agriculture, mindful that agriculture only contributes about 1.5% to the economy, and the manufacturing sector contributes about 13.9%, and the two have been declining, and they've got potential to absorb the marginalized. Then that's alone is saying a problem. So we have to really do something about it. So if you look at the dominating factors or the industries, finance is leading with about close to 24%, because we are currently at about 23.9% contribution of finance to the entire economy. That decreased by 2.3% and contributed 0.6 of a percentage point to the decline that we're seeing. So as it is, finance requires high skills. But if we're seeing a broad-based decline in the economic output, then that's a problem, because it means everybody else is affected adversely by the performance at this point.
Yes, and also looking at this country and the potential, and the one number that also stood out, Bokang, is the trade, the catering and accommodation industry, because that has also shrunk. Because to a large extent, South Africa is reliant on tourism into the country, and if this sector is going to be hit as a result of load shedding as well, again, it's all about, it shows that there is a lack of confidence in the country, and also looking at the country as an attractive holiday destination.
Absolutely. So the trade sector alone contributes about 14.3% to the country's economy, right? So we have seen in the recent numbers that the sector has declined by about 2.1%. And if you look at what has happened, if we compare ourselves to this period now going back to 2019 or pre-COVID, we are noticing that we are down by over 3%, and that's really a problem. And again, that, and you rightly put it, that the trade sector depends largely, consistent on supply and all that, right? So we've got instances where people can't sell food, for instance, because they could fail, or for whatever reason that's linked to our failure. It is one of the sectors that has got potential, and I think I did say this earlier. It is one of the sectors that are leading employment, unfortunately, in the country. And if it is, alongside manufacturing and agriculture, not able to create enough production, that is a problem, because we're really not going to be able to assist the country get out of the woods.
Yes, and obviously this is now the fourth quarter of 2022 that we're talking about, and we've seen load shedding. When one looks at the hours of load shedding, they just seem to be getting worse. So I shudder to think that if this is now in the last quarter of 2022, what lies ahead for us in the coming months?
The status quo doesn't change. Unfortunately, we're not going to be telling a good story in the next quarter. But I think as we proceed acquiring data, we are keeping an eye on the sector specifically, just to see whether there is a positive or negative change. But we will be able to outline what happens next in the number of months come. Around about end of June, we'll be able to say exactly what has happened, because as you've said, the numbers that we've shared, or that we shared yesterday, only talk to things as at end of 2022 or the last quarter of 2022. But as we speak, we've started acquiring information on what's likely to lie ahead.
Well, Bokang, thank you very much for that, and for that update this morning with us here on StatsSA Media. We wish you all the best, and please take care.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity.
Bokang Vumbukani Lepolesa with us this morning, the Chief Director responsible for national accounts at StatsSA South Africa. And it is clear that there is major cause for concern when the numbers reveal, because this I wouldn't say has come as a shock, but the shock comes to the extent that it is actually worse. And looking at economists, they find it so difficult to actually predict what the economy is going to do in this period of uncertainty. And sometimes we think we're taking a step forward, but next moment we've taken another 5 backwards. And this is exactly what these numbers are actually showing, that growth has been dragged lower by a number of sectors right across the board, whether we're looking at finance, whether we're looking at trade, mining, agriculture, manufacturing, and also general government services. Now, these are industries that have contracted in the fourth quarter, and at the same time, looking at some of the major areas, finance, real estate, and also the business services industry has just been shrinking. So there is cause for concern going forward, and we shudder to think what the numbers are going to look like when the next quarter is looked at, when those numbers will be announced. So at this point in time, there is a conservative growth estimate for the first quarter of 2023, but we don't know. Things are just too uncertain at this point in time. The time is just gone 8:21. We're going to go for a break. We'll be back.